So let's go to what happened to you. I mean, I remember, and all credit to you, sir, for having the courage and the strength of mind and personality to make that decision to appear before the Congress last year. Thousands, millions of people watched on as you gave evidence under oath before a congressional committee expressing the concern that you felt about the national security and flight safety risks of what you witnessed during 2014, 2015 off the Virginia coast. What did you witness?
Well, between 2014 and 2015, the squadron that I was in, VFA 11, and myself, were seeing on a near daily basis objects on our radar, on our camera systems, or with our eyeballs that we didn't have an explanation for. They're performing in ways that our aircraft couldn't. They were out there all day, and they would often be so many of them that we couldn't even work in the areas, and we'd have to either move or cancel our flights. And to this day, about 8 years later, they are still seeing these objects out there, and we still don't know what they are.
So you're still in touch with pilots who are operating off the Virginia coast in those training areas who are still seeing these objects?
Not just off the Virginia Beach coast, but in the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Pacific coast as well. Just recently, I was hearing from a pilot who had seen one of these objects go right down the right side of his cockpit. Again, another near miss. From his perspective, he thought it was a balloon until his wingman saw it turn and chase after his aircraft. So we're still having these issues. We still don't know why they can outperform our jets or where they're from.
Now, what were the kind of anomalies that you and your colleagues witnessed inside your fighter jets when you saw these objects? What kind of things were they doing that defied your understanding?
Yeah. So they would, I'll start at the slow end and just tell you they'd often be completely stationary in the sky and very high winds, 120, 150 miles per hour winds that cause us as pilots in our jets to struggle to stay in the area. And these objects would be perfectly still in the area. And we capture them on multiple sensors and not have an explanation for how they are able to do that. And yet then accelerate to hold at about 350 miles an hour. And they would do so for multiple hours. And then we'd also see them accelerate to 1.1 or 1.2 Mach over the speed of sound. And while we have vehicles that can do perhaps all three of those different regimes, we don't have one platform that can do all three of those seamlessly in that fashion, certainly not all day.
Obviously, you can't talk about the full extent of the technical abilities of your aircraft, but you've got imaging systems, optical systems on board your jet that allow you to see things even at a great distance. How close did you get to these objects? And did you see anything about those objects that might explain the kind of propulsion system? Were there propellers? Were there rockets? Were there some kind of jet engine that would explain what you were seeing?
Well, as naturally inquisitive fighter pilots, we did try to get close to these objects to try to visually see them. Often it was very hard and we couldn't, even though all our sensors would be telling us where to look. But eventually, we almost hit one of these objects as it went right down the right side of our wings within about 50 feet of the lead aircraft. And when we saw it, that's when we realized that these were truly something special. There were no wings on these aircraft. There were no propellers. There was no exhaust coming out of the back. There was no back to these objects. They appeared spherical. They appeared solid and consistent, and they would move without any type of energy expenditure as far as we could see with our sensors.